Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you are listening, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, retweet, whatever the hell you need to do. We would appreciate it. We've been doing this thing for way too long. Today, my incredible guest, I have Chris O'Dowd. He's a former professional baseball player, current founder and CEO of Win Reality. Chris, how you doing today, man?
Michael, couldn't be better. A lot of things to be grateful for, and it's been a fun year to watch baseball. So here we are with the season wrapped up, and um, you still want to talk baseball.
I know, right? Isn't it the best? I love baseball so much. Now, I'm a Mets fan, a struggling, depressed Mets fan. So seeing the Nationals and then the Braves win in the span of like 3 years wasn't like the best for my psyche. And now no one wants to sign as the Mets GM. I don't know what your dad is up to. I'll take him in a heartbeat, but we don't need to get into that part of the conversation just quite yet. Chris, sincerely appreciate you being on. Very excited to talk about you and what you've done and some of the things you're building. But more importantly, the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Ooh, so Michael, if you look back especially at how I grew up with a dad in baseball, my dad Dan was the general manager of the Rockies for 15 years, an executive with the Indians during, I mean, they had every good player you can think of: Manny Ramirez,
Yes,
Jim Thome,
Tome,
Sandy
yeah,
Alomar
those years.
Jr., Robbie Alomar. I mean, Kenny Loft. I could go on and on. So naturally, like, why do I love sports? It was the bond. It was an opportunity for me to have a moment of commonality with my dad and really amongst our family from the minute I was born. That's carried through. It's, something that will fire up the group text when we feel far apart, and when we're together, it fills in the holes, and it keeps us connected. And so that's also extended out to friendships, and in turn allowed us to create a business around it. So I love sports because it just keeps family at the top of the hierarchy of what's important in life. And it is, for me, a every minute of my life somehow tied back to sport. And I hope it still does.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I love this industry so much. It's what I've always loved. It's everything I want to do. I don't watch TV shows. I watch football. Like I don't know what people are watching on Netflix. I'm watching the baseball playoffs right now. So I have a second TV in my living room specifically for that reason, as most people should at this point. I feel like 2021, you should probably have that second TV rolling. I'm not here to judge you if you don't, but I'm kind of curious. As you said, your dad, Rocky, GM of the Rockies. Pretty incredible job title. As you said, he was there for over a decade, right? 15 years. That's incredible. You don't really see that in really any sport too much anymore. That type of length out of that high up of an executive. Was there ever an option not to get into baseball, to not love baseball? Like, was it kind of from birth, like out of the chute? It was like, hey, this is what you're doing, kid. I hope you love it.
You would you would think that at some point I would ask that question, like, I wonder what I want to do with my life. It was never a question, not even a thought. I think the one thing that would hit me at certain moments is like, will I be a good enough player to continue to play at a high level, or should I be thinking about doing what my dad does? And so it was always this like, never wanted to have a plan B, because I thought that being a player was always going to be a possibility. And as much as I loved, like, listening and being a fly on the wall and understanding the dynamics of my dad's role in running an organization, it was like my own dream to create like a different avenue for how I could make baseball, call it like a career, something, a way to earn a paycheck. And foolishly, like, you would think like, wow, like, you didn't, consider having a career outside of baseball, outside of sports. In hindsight, I'm like, you're right. Like, that's really odd. Never crossed my mind, not once. So,
No way, man.
uh,
Like, it's the thing you love. Why would you want to do, like, you could be doing consumer packaged goods, right? Like, I do marketing, but I do marketing for a sports book. Like, I could do marketing for some shit company I don't care anything about. I would much rather do it about something that I love and I'm passionate about and I'm talking about every day anyway, right?
It's funny, and maybe that's one of like the beautiful things about baseball. It doesn't force you to think outside the walls of the games. I mean, there's job opportunities that are high impact at all levels. So you could be running a travel ball organization or a part of a college baseball program, and so there's not many sports that like provide those opportunities. The volume of players is much greater. You look at like a basketball, while it's a well known big part of our uh, like how we think about sport, there's not that many job opportunities there. And so, yeah, I love to see the growth of baseball. Minor league baseball is a fantastic thing. And there's incredible stories that come out of, the 23rd round draft pick that is now an all-star. So it gives hope to a lot of players to continue to uh, expect and dream about playing professionally or continuing their career beyond college.
Right. I'm again being a Mets fan, Mike Piazza. I don't remember the round, but he's the
I want to
latest
say
pick ever.
47.
I was gonna say 41, but I could be wrong.
Maybe
But
that's it.
he's the
Yeah.
latest pick ever to be then inducted to the Hall of Fame. And it's like again, like that's wild when you think about it. Or like 42nd round, like there's thou- not thousands, hundreds of people selected ahead of him, and he ended up going to the Hall of Fame, which is pretty darn cool. And again, it's very important to understand and get into. So you eventually you go to Dartmouth. You're there for 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. You are a catcher. Your slash line was incredible. Love looking at stats, so I appreciate you giving me an excuse to do that today, Chris. But you eventually get drafted. Well, actually, let's go to Dartmouth. You're clearly very good at baseball. Did you again, as you said, you always had this idea? You're always going to be a player. You're always going to be a player. I don't think you go to Dartmouth and be like, well, this is definitely the only thing I'm going to do is play baseball. Who cares about education? Let's go to the Ivy League. Like that's not quite how it works, right? Like there's subconsciously. Come on, you got to be honest with me here, man. Right? There was something there.
Oh, I wouldn't say that the something was like doubt that I couldn't play professionally, but moreover, I'm competitive. And as a competitor, there's like not one aspect of my life that I don't want to be excellent at. And so, in turn, like if it's been drilled home since I was a kid that like academics are important. Like if you're getting good grades, you're creating the discipline that needs that translates into you even like propelling your athletic career more. And so in turn, like that competitive nature lends me to like where the best at where the most like quote unquote intelligent people, how do I be around that? How do I be exposed to that? And so yeah, I think it's just part of like the internal like drive, intrinsic motivation to like find ways to learn and be great and continue to improve myself that like help me gravitate to that environment. And um I would say is like just the minute I stepped on campus at Dartmouth, I actually got on like an accelerated course load, so I could graduate in 3 years and go play baseball. So it
Nice.
wasn't
So
like
you're
even though I was there, I was
yeah.
like, no, I'm leaving as quick as I can.
I love it. I love it. And then after 3 years there, you were actually drafted by the San Diego Padres. So was that? I'm assuming that was around the time your dad was the GM of the Rockies, right?
Yes, division
So I was
rivals
gonna
to some
say,
degree.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. Not to it's the Rockies and the Padres. It is what it is. But it's still division rivals. That's still kind of cool. Like
Well, I
that's
say that
something.
because 2007 playing game, Rockies versus Padres,
Mm-hmm.
Matt Holliday sliding into home plate. Like
Yep.
when you think of the biggest moment in the Colorado Rockies franchise history, it like gets back to like uh, playing the Padres. So in
There
some
you go.
ways, yeah.
And you were part of it in spirit, in some way, shape, or form, right? Let's just we'll leave that one. This is my show. We're gonna leave it there. So I hope that's cool. So you drafted by the Padres. You make it all the way to AAA. You spent a few years in the minor leagues. I think one thing people just in general, right? It's oh, you only made it to the minor leagues, dude. You were a AAA baseball player. You're literally one of the best. I don't know, 100 and hundreds maybe 250 best players on planet Earth at this sport. Like that is absolutely wild when you kind of break it down like that, right? So I'm kind of curious, how close were you? Was it on the table? Were those discussions there? Were you kind of understanding like, hey, maybe not? Like, how close did you get to playing in the show?
You look at one a AAA roster is made up of you could have a 21-year-old prospect who's about to be like an uber superstar, like
Fernando
uh,
Tatis, Acuna,
Tatis,
yeah,
Acuna. Yes, exactly. And then you have the call it like 36-year-old, 8 years of service time in the big leagues. player who is like the next call up, and that like coexist within this space. Like there are so many different players at different stages in their career, in their development, in their like personal lives. You know, you look at the life of a minor leaguer. At one point, I played in like 14 different leagues, 14 different cities in 7 years. And if I were bringing a family with me everywhere, like that is an incredible dynamic that changes what it's like to be a minor leaguer. That wasn't the case for me, but nonetheless, you have to adapt to new teammates, new situations quickly and perform. So many challenges in which, like going back to like you get to the point where you realize that like yes, there's the uber prospect, but for the most part, everyone else is in between.
Hmm.
And there can be a moment. There's a moment where I had a suit pat like with me, ready to, it had gotten an indication that there could be a call up. Didn't happen, but I had the suit ready. And then on the flip side, there was moments where it never felt like I was going to get a hit again. And those like emotional highs and lows are like a way in which it really separates the good from the great and puts you in a position where if you're consistent day over day, you're probably the person in a position that's going to have the best chance, not only just to get called up, but then stay up in the big leagues. And you see that like very clearly once you get up to double A and triple A. And for those out there who don't know a ton about professional baseball, there's like 7 levels to the minor leagues, and most players don't make it out of the first 3. And once you're in double A and triple A, you could effectively make a career and have a honest paid or wage and paycheck at those levels. But nonetheless, cracking the code to get to the big leagues takes an incredible amount of patience, luck, consistency, dedication over time. And it's why the players that are in the big leagues, I mean, they are just like beyond the talent, have done something that's so special. And something you have to appreciate. And when you watch the game, you have to like understand that the nuances and what they had to do to get to that level. It probably wasn't handed to them. There's very few people that fall into that bucket.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we always kind of say, oh, he's so lucky. Well, as you said, there's 7 leagues. Most people don't know that. I honestly was going to guess 5. I didn't realize it was going to be 7. I mean, I guess you got low A, high A, rookie, right? There's some like weird ones people don't pay attention to too much, but you made it all the way to Triple A, which is just absolutely incredible. You almost get that chance, as you said, that suit was packed. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for you, but hey, man, you still, as you said, you were able to make a living. You were able to make a life out of it. You met some cool people along the way. 14 cities in 7 years, did you say? Is pretty wild. So good for you, but I think it's still amazing that you made it that high. Again, were literally one of the best baseball players on planet Earth, the 1% of the 1% at the time, considering how many people play this sport, right? That's still kudos and congratulations, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks, Michael. It was a lot of people had a hand in even kind of pushing me to like want to stick around and wait for that day where there's a call up, in which like who knows, I could be playing right now. But for the most part, I think you get to that point in life where you want to be great at something, you want to be the best. And when you don't see that that's going to happen, and even though you've invested, like I invested everything I could into being the best I could. And that came with significant sacrifice, not just by me, but by with my family. I mean, my mom's an angel for sitting through and watching like thousands of baseball games over almost a decade and a half. And, ultimately, though, the life lessons that were like condensed into that 7-year span, the amount of like change, adaptation, having to like push yourself is completely irreplaceable. I don't think there's many other industries that expose you as fast as you are in baseball, put you in a position where you fail as much, but still have to show up the next day. Or even in the middle of a game, you could be the worst player on the field for 8 innings and have a chance to win the game for your team in the ninth. It's just like, I tell you what, you're either hard boiled by the end of it or have a lot of grit and ability to persist that applies, after
I'm
after
gonna
the
I'm
jersey's
gonna
hung up.
assume you're the latter on that. You have some of that grit. You have some of that heart. We'll use the word grit. I like that one. That has gotten you to the spot. So I'm always curious when talking to professional athletes. There's always kind of two paths. And here's the thing, right? You're a professional athlete. You really only get to do this thing for a couple years. Me, in marketing, hopefully I can market at 80 years old, right? Like I might have to like change a couple things up, but I can still do my job. And as a professional athlete, you know that it is a clock, right? I looked today and I noticed Odell Beckham Jr. is 29 years old. I was like, wow, I can't believe he's that old. That's not old. That's not old on planet Earth at all. But unfortunately, 3, 4, 5 years if he's lucky, and that's kind of it for him. And it's unfortunate to see that happen with most athletes. Now, were you in the boat of you realized it was, hey, you know what? I've done this. I'm satisfied with the effort and the energy that I've put into it. I'm gonna walk away on my terms, or was it the other unfortunate side of it where it's like, hey man, we don't think you can do this anymore. We're sorry, but you can't come back. Because I found those are really the two buckets most athletes get put in, unfortunately.
No doubt. I was kind of fortunate on the side that there was a number of like God winks before I got to the point where it was a tough decision. One of them being my dad had the idea of what is now Win Reality for a number of years before we even began to like storyboard out what this product could be and the problems it would solve. But nonetheless, the possibility of creating a virtual reality sports training application started to become real around the time in which uh, a I was, not to say I was hitting like a plateau, but where I had learned enough of the lifestyle around being a player that I could entertain the idea of having these conversations with my dad and potentially pursuing a I want to call it a side gig, but a proof of concept through like third party developers and kind of hold their hand through it without it pulling me off course from trying to be a professional baseball player and pursue that dream. And so as that started to get off the ground, and my dad also having a huge hand in making that happen, it provided me like a transition outlet to where once we saw that it was possible to have a pitcher in a virtual reality environment, that you could see ball flight, like all these just like very simple fundamental things about like what a baseball training application needs to do, it was coming together right around the same time. I played my last season with a torn UCL in my elbow. Tommy John, for listeners, that used to be like oh, this is terrible. And now every pitcher comes back throwing harder and actually taking a step forward. But nonetheless, like I played through that injury without surgery, and it was a really, really tough year for me. Just not knowing if I could pick up a baseball and throw every single day, and not telling teammates or coaches or anyone. Just kind of keeping that to myself was a challenge. And our virtual reality training application coming to life a little bit really started to reignite like my energy towards how do I use this like love for sport in a way that can have a higher impact than what I would be doing as a player right now. And so I was really just blessed in that there's a lot of peace behind the decision. You see players, let's say, bouncing around from a team to team, and then getting their chance in the big leagues and performing and doing well, and having like an 8 to 10 year career thereafter. That could easily happen, but certainly like my calling, and where I felt like we could really deliver and have a mission that delivered on a bigger promise than me putting on a major league uniform and doing that for the next decade was something that I couldn't say no to. So
I love that. Yeah, and it's again, it's unfortunate, right? Of course you want to play baseball and you want to make the show and things happen, but as you said, the I don't believe in luck, I don't believe in coincidences, but everything kind of lined up at once, right? All these things started to happen. It's like, hey, you were injured and you didn't have the best year ever, and oh, you guys have this ability to now show this proof of concept of this really interesting project that you've been thinking about for a while now. And if you were injured at UCL, you're going to be out for a minute, right? So why don't we take that time to then put energy into that? As you said, it reignited your calling, and it would be cool to make the show, right? But that's 1-to-1. That's you get that. Now if you make this opportunity, you start this project, which we're going to talk about in a second here. Now it's 1 to 1,000. Now it's 1 to 10,000. Now it's 1 to 100,000. Where your dad, obviously your team, you guys have the ability to help so many more people, especially with the advancements of technology. So yeah, man, let's talk about it. When Reality started around the 2017 year, if I'm not mistaken. It's a virtual reality training program software. I don't know exactly the word you guys like to use, so I'll let you do that. But tell me, what is the mission? What is the vision? What was that storyboard that you guys were rocking with when you decided, hey, I think this might be the time. The technology's finally caught up with us. Usually it's the other way around, right?
That's right. Very fortunate. There hadn't been a more or less like sea change in tech enablement that had hit sport on a consumer level, really up until our product, which was less than a year ago that we brought it to the amateur baseball market. But more or less, the problems that we're trying to solve is that when you look at baseball, the by far the most fun part about it, and also the most challenging uh, skill that in order to improve is hitting. When you step in the batter's box, a pitcher's in control. They have an arsenal. There's tons of different variations of pitchers, and yet they cannot go out every day and throw to you to practice. Your dad may be able to, lob batting practice balls in and they're straight. He's not breaking off curveballs. And then tee work, machine work, it's just not the same as facing a pitcher. And so while everyone in baseball, like you want to grab a bat and you want to hit, when you barrel a baseball, nothing feels better. It's by far, what motivates players to want to play for a really long time. And yet there's this big gap in how you can improve. And so in a virtual reality training environment, we believe that you could see unlimited reps at game speed against any pitcher in the world, anyone you can imagine. And then in turn, we could provide insights like what should technology do? We can measure things. We can tell you specifically how we can make you better, faster, and do it from in virtual reality, the convenience of your living room. So you think about like you drive to a field, it rains, you can't play, practice, you can't play. You drive to a hitting facility, you rent the place for half an hour, you're limited on time. There's all these barriers right now where in a given month you could spend over $500 on training, and yet only actually get like 2 hours worth of quality reps, where that can happen in VR in, one day. So a lot of opportunities for this technology to transform how you think about becoming a great hitter. And on our side, that has been the mission from day one because it applies to everyone who loves baseball. You could be a 10-year-old and just getting into, playing Little League. And then also, we work with MVP candidates who are looking for those like small nuances in how they make an incremental improvement to take their game to the next level.
That is awesome, man. I don't know if you noticed, but when you said you could pitch again, you could play against any pitcher in the world, my mouth dropped because I just thought about looking at Clayton Kershaw's curveball just kind of drop right in the bucket and me just swinging in my living room, completely flailing. I think that would be fun, but I think that it is so cool, and the opportunity, as you said, right? Like I actually, funny story, my mom used to work at a batting cage. Like I know exactly what you're talking about with that stuff. Grand Slam in Flemington, it doesn't exist anymore. The place was the best, right? And it's just one of those things where we would go there all the time, and I would get unlimited tokens, but people would come in and right, like sometimes a pitching machine really sucked that day. Like it's just nothing about it. Like it just wasn't firing off strikes, and you get 10 balls, that's it. Okay, well now you got to get another token, or so you make some really great points that with now technology and the opportunities that have gotten to where they have. I mean, I got the first, I think it was a yeah, here we go, Samsung Galaxy S6, and it
Mm-hmm.
had like the thing that you could throw over like the phone and you just put it on your face. And I got it one year for Christmas. It was like $100. It was very confusing. It was the easiest thing in the world to use. The games weren't that good for it yet. It was really kind of just the cool looking around aspect of it, which was fun. How, like, did this idea come about before the invent of virtual reality? Like, where, like, this sounds great, but if the technology is not there, you can't use it. So when did this start to really get in motion? And as you said, you and your dad had this idea for a while now. Where did this idea spark, and how did it kind of come about?
Yeah, so my dad actually went down and met with NASA in 1995,
Holy
and
shit, that's a really cool way
yeah,
to open up that story, Chris. All right,
oh
keep
man,
going.
and they were doing really advanced things on simulation training, and they had a dome system. And so my dad was like, "Hey, can we get a pitcher over there? And can I stand here at home plate?" And they're like, "Yeah, we just need $20 million. We need like an
Yeah.
obscene amount of money to make it happen." And then it's only one. Uh, Fast forward, the very first product we rolled out, we actually built VR rooms. So we had this projector based system that would blend projection all the way around you. You would wear these 3D blinking, they call it like stereoscopic glasses. And in turn, like that created the depth. And frankly, like each system would cost us like $75,000 just like for the equipment, not the install, not the architecture. Like, so it's like, okay, now who in the world can actually buy that?
A little
I could
expensive.
even narrow down the number of major league teams that could
I
buy
was gonna
that,
say,
which,
yeah, like which teams would be interested in that?
but we started to build the software architecture and understand how players would want to use it, what's important, where the hurdles are going to be. And then fast forward about a year ago to date, Facebook, now Meta, released the Oculus Quest 2. And that was the first time in which consumer VR had like all the attributes of enterprise professional VR, meaning it had great tracking, it was smooth, the resolution and graphics didn't have a screen door effect, meaning it looked like crystal clear. And that just unlocked everything in the market and even consumers' perception of VR. And so like sitting here today, it's really, this concept wasn't like possible on a large scale until the hardware caught up, but we've been ready. And now we're really taking a big step forward and not just having a product that serves the best in the world, the professionals, but also now we have like a pitcher at 45 feet for anyone that is potentially younger and a beginner baseball player and is not looking for a Clayton Kershaw breaking ball.
Come
So
on, man. What player doesn't want to go against that thing? How about Jacob DeGrom 101 on the black? That would be fun too.
94-mile-an-hour sliders from DeGrom. Like I
Not too
don't
bad.
even, it's freezing
You
me.
sure you don't want to play in the show, Chris? You sure you don't want to get there?
I'm getting my fix in our office. Don't you worry.
Oh, dude, that sounds absolutely fantastic. So I guess, as you said, you had to wait for the hardware to catch up. That doesn't mean you weren't tweaking with the software on the background, right? Like obviously things were in motion. How does it's proprietary software? You guys created this. Like how do you even go? Like who's the first phone call? Like who are you calling? Like, hey man, so I want to do this crazy thing. Technology doesn't quite exist yet, but it looks like it's gonna. Like, how do you even start to have those conversations?
Wow. As a former baseball player and my dad is a GM, like that's a great question. How do we
Thanks.
stumble into executing on technology? The problem set kind of was established really quickly by working with a group of really advanced technologists, and then we were able to identify how we would build out our own team. The biggest part about I think why we're in a position today to be a leader in VR sports training and have especially established our footprint in baseball is that we had access to the best players in the world right off the bat. So we had, uh, you know, and players in their MVP season using our product every day and giving us feedback. And so we were like tailoring this to like, we're not trying to replace batting practice. We're not trying to like supplement how you train, but we know if you could see the opposing pitcher, if you could see more live reps, it's going to help you. So how do you want to use this? We were really, really hands-on in the first couple of years with our customers. We saw one of our first collegiate customers, Texas Christian University, TCU, average more than 3.29 additional runs per game when they used our product before.
Whoa,
Like
that
wild
is
stuff. It's just like in your face, like anecdotal, like yes, players say it's working, but then like these numbers do back it up in a way that we had no way thought were possible. And then now like the trickle down effect is like we had a family call us about a week ago, thanking us because their son went from non-prospect that no one would seen or talked about to getting a college scholarship. And
that's
it's like
awesome.
making that family's dreams come true. And we were part of that journey. And not to say our product was like the thing that got him over the hump, but it's also, we talk a lot about confidence. We talk a lot about what it takes to be great. It's more of like holistically, if you're going to optimize and reach your peak performance, like these are the attributes, like the disciplines that you need to have. And you look at this amateur market and like it's natural to me because we had performance science teams in professional baseball. We had access to the best talent in the world when it came to performance optimization, but amateur players like really don't. And those conversations, the sooner they can start, the sooner as a parent you can teach through like this modality that will apply to like a lot of life principles, is just like well worth the investment, well beyond what when reality will even do for you on the field.
That is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's cool that you're working with Major League Baseball players, but also helping kids get scholarships to college. Their parents don't have to pay the exorbitant amount of money, right? Like that helps way more long term in a lot of different situations. So I think that's extremely, extremely important. What with the evolution of the product, right? So you guys started as the idea and everything started to come together in 2017, as you said. 2019, if I'm not mistaken, was when it first got implemented, right? And then over the last couple years, you've now had the opportunity. It's gotten in the hands of amateur players. How has the product, right? You can't just sit on your hands and say, "Hey, we did it, guys. This is cool." How have you improved, and how's the product evolved over time with, again, the technology, the software, everything becoming newer, fresher, cleaner? What have you guys been able to do to just improve upon what has already seemed to be pretty successful?
Yeah, we're in the earliest stages of this product. There's no doubt about it. Like the fundamentals that we focus on for the first couple of years, where it just making the pitcher ball flight, that interaction feel right for you to say like, wow, that looks like Kershaw. This is the same pacing. This is what it feels like to step in the box and compete against a pitcher. Took a lot of time, took a lot of like intellectual property, product domain expertise to get that right, and heavy impact from a lot of our customers and partners. But since then, now it's like wrapping it with all the things that make this a effective training product. I want to know what to do. I want to be personalized with like what training track and training program you're on, a player development plan for you, the amateur player specifically, and not broad. We've really improved with not our drill work fundamentally, like the core of it's been the same, but like what we've now done transitioning from like segmenting the ball flight and pitch with drills. So for instance, a lot of times hitters are late. So we have a set of drills that helps you be on time more. And then you can piece it together and test it with the swing. So you can grab your bat. We've got a little like a attachment accessory that attaches to the bat, and then you're taking full cuts with a virtual reality headset on. And so it's like all the attributes that are important in the StatCast metrics that you would see on TV. You're seeing that in VR, and those metrics really haven't been accessible to amateur players. So we're teaching what the best are doing in a way that is like incredibly innovative and fun and visceral and just keeps you captivated. It's a wow experience.
That's sweet. So I'd be able to see the launch angle, right? You'd be able to see the velocity off the bat. You can go up against Giancarlo Stanton, see if you can get up to that, 110, 115 range. That's always fun. Like, I think it's so cool. And the opportunity, again, that, as you said, like, again, my mom used to work at a batting cage and used to go take lessons. And those guys were incredible at what they did, but it was expensive, man. Like, you had two kids that went there on a weekly basis. Like, you're spending hundreds of dollars on something like that. Not to say that that's not going to help. As you said, this isn't replacing much of that, but you now have the opportunity to sit in your home, sit in your yard, your garage, wherever you need to be, and be able to take full cuts against real life pitching, essentially, in VR, which again is going to reduce significantly the cost of some of those things. Is there like a PSA, like, hey, like make sure you check your surroundings, stuff like that goes on? Because I'm sure there's some fun stories that you guys have on that side.
Oh yeah, we've invested heavily in like the safety aspect, more or
Yeah,
less. But to date, knock on wood, no issues. It's we spend a lot of time onboarding our customers, teaching them how to use the application, and then part of that is you're swinging hard. So like make sure your doors are closed, pets aren't around, and
love it.
uh, no, all good today.
Of course, of course. Just a fun little humor there. I guess with that, I think it's really interesting, again, now that you guys have made it to the amateur level, that anybody, I can go out and essentially buy this. What was it like? What was that first sale like, though? What was that first time you're talking to a Major League Baseball team? Maybe it's the Rockies, maybe it's not. You're talking to that Major League Baseball team and you're saying, like, as you said, anecdotally, this sounds great, but we believe if all of your players use this, this will increase their ability over time. This will increase. What was it like to kind of get that first, like, yes? Like, because that first one's always the hardest, right? And then once you go from there, you're like, all right, now we can get data, now we can get all this. How was that? What was that like, if you can tell, how much of you can tell from that story?
Oh, so you look back at those early conversations, and I'm sitting there across from these high-level executives, GMs, and saying like, "Hey, I think we can do this. Like, would you be interested if we could?" And
Try it
they're
out.
like, "Yeah,
See what's the
absolutely."
worst
Like,
that could happen.
it was like fundamentally, if you could see a pitcher and you could face a pitcher before the game, And this was right around the time in which there was all this data emerging about the third time through the batting order,
Mm-hmm.
and starting pitchers just like their performance declining incredibly fast the third time a hitter sees them. Well, and if you train a VR prior to the first time you face that pitcher is effectively more not your third at bat, but probably your eighth or 10th. And so like naturally, this is just the type of conversations that were already happening in baseball and continue to, but like, the biggest, like the hardest part about the sale was like selling something that like hadn't been built, hadn't been executed on, and just being like, I think it's going to work. Our first customer, we actually put an intern next to the system that we could have on speed dial. Actually, now that intern is like an assistant GM, so I'm not going to call
Hell
him out,
yeah.
but he has flown up. He's awesome. And
Good
but
for
those,
him.
I was initially talking to him. Um, I mean, it would be like the seventh inning, and just everything would stop working. And that you like you talk about like running to your phone, running to your computer, and calling up developers like all over the country, like you got to fix this. It's just wild those early days, and a lot of people, when you think technology, it's like, do you wait till it's perfect before you roll it out? Do you like, or, in our case, we just kind of took a really raw MVP and put it in, these athletes' hands and just try to adapt as quick as we could. So the sale wasn't what scared me. It was actually delivering the product and what would come thereafter. And we actually, one of the first teams that we worked with ended up going to the World Series that year. So,
Are you allowed to tell
um,
us which team, or is that like confidential stuff? I'm assuming.
you could probably read about it, but
That's true.
I've
I
been
guess I could
slapped
just
on
do
the
a little
wrist
little
too many times.
backtracking. Yeah, it really can't be that
Yeah.
hard. All right, cool. Well, congrats to that team. And you say intern. I always feel like baseball is like ripe with those stories, right? Interns that end up being GMs. I feel like, hey, just get that internship with the Tampa Bay Rays. You're gonna go somewhere at some point. So it's always cool. So shout out to your buddy and former colleague. I think that is absolutely fantastic. So as you said, you had that first sale. It was super hard, super difficult. Now you're at over 20 MLB teams, over 100 college programs, and as you said, you've already done the individual training. Where do we go from here? I mean, there's 32 MLB teams, right? 30 MLB teams, 30. I always mix up football and baseball. So there's 30 MLB teams. So there's a couple left. You have some minor league programs, but I'm assuming it's already trickled down. Like, how do you continue to improve on obviously your core product, and then what are other
Mhm.
things that you guys are thinking of that will again supplement or help and continue to grow the business and the company?
You can dive so deep into the world of hitting. Learning to like think like a hitter takes so long. And even for like the most talented professional players, how many times have you come up with a runner on third, infield in a tie game with a left-handed pitcher who throws 97 in sinkers?
You're doing the
Uh,
Bob Euchre, like he's the best at night in the middle of the day, like that whole thing. It's so true. That's why I love baseball. There's stats for all of it.
and so like given like the nuances and what it's like to even like coach yourself through those like really critical game situations, uh, we are just scratching the surface on helping hitters eh, take all the fear out of what it's like to step in the box and compete and just be free. And that for me is something in which there's ways like right on the horizon. Like one of the things that Meta Facebook has done really well recently too is their multiplayer systems for VR have taken a huge step. There's low latency. It's like you can talk to someone and really engage with someone. And so we want to have a coach as a part of the experience. We want to, take the best hitting coach in the world and take out the localization. You have access to them in VR. Those are the things that are on the horizon to where if we just stay deep and focused on helping hitters and then broadening it to helping baseball and softball players on a higher level, there's an opportunity to provide exponentially more impact than even what we're doing now. So as much as like you could get excited about like other sports or even like, the question comes up a lot, like what can we do for pitchers? Uh, where
That was
pitchers
going to
are,
be my next question.
yeah, I don't think we're going to be friends with pitchers anytime soon.
I
So
love it. I mean,
Call it.
plus you have to actually throw the ball. The whole point is trying to save your arm, right? So it kind of makes sense a little bit. But I think it's incredible what you guys have been able to build in such a short period of time. Again, with your career, I'm sure the relationships you've made, the relationships your father has made this. I want to say easier, but more capable, more opportunity, right? It's always good to know people. It's never hurt. It's never hurt to know somebody. So I think that part of it's obviously fantastic. And the last thing I want to ask you about, I'm a very positive person, unless it's talking about the Mets and recently the New York Giants. But I think COVID obviously sucked. I think that's going out on a limb saying that, right? But the opportunities that come with it are immense. I think the most businesses ever incorporated last year it was like it just the number was staggering. The people unfortunately lose their jobs, but then come up with new ideas and start to do new things. Sports obviously took a very big hit from that. I know many little leagues were canceled. I know many, youth leagues, high school, college, even a lot of that stuff got canceled, and it was very unfortunate. But let's turn it into a positive. That was probably great for you guys, right? The opportunity to say, hey, like you don't have to go to a batting cage. You could do this in your backyard. This is literally you, all by yourself. What's the best thing that you could possibly do during this unfortunate time in the world? How did you guys, for lack of a better term, take advantage of that and really just trying to get this in as many people's hands and give them this opportunity and give them the understanding of, hey, like this doesn't mean you have to stop practicing. This is actually one of the best things that could have happened because now all you can do is practice.
You look at kind of the like this digital age, like the way in which kids spend their time and the number of distractions and opportunities for how they spend their time, like they could be pulled anywhere at any time. And that gives, in a situation where you like don't have a structured sports team that you're on, it could make like baseball like a far smaller part of their lives. And like I think our mission here is like there's going to be a next generation of athletes, a next generation of baseball and softball players that will eventually be fans of Major League Baseball and then teach their kids about it. And that wave that's coming, like we are an opportunity to pull them in with something that's fun. There's a lot of like attributes about Win Reality that are like a video game. You're scored, there's leaderboards, like there's different medal systems, like all that.
Is there a
And
home run derby yet?
I don't think I've ever hit a home run in our application.
Stop going up against the ground, man.
I
What are
know.
you doing?
Double sitter. So,
Nothing wrong with that.
uh, but more or less, like this was an opportunity to like reinstill hope and interest in like this amateur market. And frankly, we weren't ready to deliver a product to them. We pushed it because there was demand. We had parents calling us and saying like, hey, I just, my son loves baseball and I just want to keep him interested. Can you guys do something? And so like, as that demand started, we reacted. And, hopefully this is, not just for the, thousands of people that we work with now, but as that pot grows, begins to create a community around why baseball's fun, why this should continue to be a part of, the family dynamics and a lot of the life skills that like need to be developed with kids at a young age. Like we're the platform that can help accelerate that.
That is awesome, man. I think it's fantastic. Again, I've said that a million times so far in the last 43 minutes, but I truly mean it. I think it is awesome that the technology has gotten this far and that you guys are taking advantage. Everyone talks about how bad technology is all the time. It's obviously very, very good. There's some negative that come with it, but I think you guys are really doing some of the significant positive, especially for a sport that I love so much, that you love so much, that your family loves so much in baseball, and helping just people from, as you said, MVPs all the way down to little leaguers get better at the sport that they love so much, that, as you have learned, can teach you a lot in life. So, Chris, this has been absolutely fantastic. Chris O'Dowd, former pro baseball player, founder, CEO of Win Reality. Chris, where can we find more information about the product? How do I get it? Can you send me one? I just want to face one of those Clayton Kershaw curveballs. What do we need to do? Can we follow you online? Give me all the information. This is your time to spit it all out, and I'll put everything in the show notes for everyone just in case too.
winreality.com. We've got a few different options. We want serious baseball and softball players. So going that annual route will give you the best experience with us. It's a subscription. You buy an Oculus Quest 2 headset
Don't buy the
anywhere
Quest
online.
1, Quest 2.
It's more affordable, Quest 2. So you want that anyways.
That's awesome.
And you can buy that online, call any of the major vendors. And then once you have that, we've got accessories like a bat attachment, a hitting bundle, And once you have those tools ready to go, then you're set. You'll hear from one of our coaches, and we'll help put you on a training path and program that is optimized for you and uh, what can help take your game to the next level.
So I told you I was going to let you go, but actually now I have another question. So I apologize for that. But with that, because you said that first time that you implemented the system at the Major League Baseball stadium or at the team facility, wherever it was, you had that intern stand there so that if anything went wrong, did you find that having that kind of extra added, like, hey, you're not just downloading an application and figuring it out. You have a coach, you have somebody there that's going to help you if you have questions. How much have you seen that improve, or did you always have something like that, or is that something you implemented after you realized, hey, not everyone's grasping what needs to be done here?
Part of it is not so much that you can't learn how to find value in the application without a coach. Is that part of development isn't just the hard skills. It's not just recognizing pitches sooner, faster reaction times. It's personal development. It's knowing that there's someone out there who cares about you, who's thinking about you, and will hold you accountable. So when we think about like a membership, it's not just delivering improvement in skills. It's also starting to lay a foundation for how you think about training and how you think about how to improve and creating those like patterns, behaviors, routines, disciplines that uh, make us a bigger part of their lives than just a piece of technology.
That is fantastic. I love it, man. And where can we follow you on social media?
Uh, our Instagram and TikTok, you'll see some
I will
random
not be
clips where
following
I'm
you on TikTok. Let me just tell you that right now. I try not to do that.
No, yeah, our Twitter is not as it's not as hot as some of those other platforms, and yeah, so Instagram's the way to go. Winter Reality is a handle, and yeah, we have content every day with some of our current customers, influencers, you name it. So a lot of ways to see how Winter Reality is used on those social media platforms.
I love it, man. So again, I'll have everything in the show notes for everybody. But Chris, this has been absolutely fantastic. Sincerely appreciate your time today, man.
All right, thanks, Michael.